Hey guys, welcome back to my page. Thank you so much for being here today. If you're new, my name is Sarah. I'm a Christian life coach and content creator. And if you're not new, then welcome back. Thank you guys so much for being here today. So I have a little bit of a change of scenery. I decided to hang out with you guys in my living room today and just be comfortable on my couch with my tea. And then I have my husband Adam just in the den over there doing his work. So I thought I'll film out here today. So yeah, I just wanted to have a quick little chat with you guys and share a message. And this little thought came to me while I was in Toronto visiting my family a couple of weeks ago. And so I wrote it down on my phone that I just wanted to just kind of speak off the cuff on this topic and hopefully inspire someone today who needs to hear this message. So I grew up in Toronto my whole life, and something that I noticed, and this is not specific to Toronto, there's probably a lot of people say this about whatever city they're from or whatever hometown they're from, but I would notice that people would always just speak like really negative words over like the men or the women of Toronto, and basically saying like it's impossible to find like a loyal woman or a faithful guy or whatever it is, just based off of the culture there, which was like, I know at least like when I was in my early 20s, it was super inspired by Drake and just like kind of like this culture of like, I can't really use this certain terminology because it's not appropriate, but kind of like F-boys, if anyone has ever heard that term, or kind of like, just like not really no commitment there for men or for women on either side. Really just like a hookup culture and a culture about like just sleeping around. But this is just something that I would notice. And then I even saw memes like I think 6 months ago. Oh, you know what it was? It was a meme, and it said like someone was praying and being like, God, please help me find my spouse. And then God was like, where do you live? And they said Toronto, and he was like, can't help you there, like something like that. And I was like, wow, like this is seriously still going around. And again, I know that this is probably not unique to Toronto. I'm sure like literally every single city experiences this and culture experiences this. But anyways, I guess when I go back to visit my family and I'm in Toronto, a lot of like memories come back to me of just like growing up there and my teen years and like early 20s and stuff like that. And I just really started thinking, like, what came to me is, why are we first of all adapting to this culture? Second of all, why are we speaking words of death over the men and women of this culture? Because we know that life and death is in the power of the tongue. So the more that we continue to say things like, there are no good men, there are no faithful men, there are no faithful women, men only care about this, like even if it seems to be a fact or seems to be true because that's what we're actually seeing, it is just breeding more of that culture the more that we speak over our neighborhoods, our cities, our friend groups, like our again, just men and women. Like the more that we do that, the more that we're agreeing with the enemy. And that's really what it is just, it's a plan of the enemy who comes in and infiltrates through culture and perverts everything. Really, that's what it is. But I was thinking, it's not just about what we're speaking over, like let's say our city, saying, oh, I'm never going to be able to find a husband here because all the guys are like this where I'm from. It's not even just about that. I started thinking, like, why aren't we being the example ourselves? And maybe you are already doing that, but it really just reminded me of like, we need to be like, we are set apart. I think sometimes what can happen often is we just adapt to the culture around us because it's easier and it's more acceptable, and maybe we're hiding our light, like we're not actually shining the light of Christ in situations that we should be because we're afraid of other people's opinions, or it's just kind of like easier to adapt to whatever the world is saying, whatever the world is doing, and that way we can earn their acceptance. But that just reminds me of a scripture, which I've said the scripture many times, both of these scriptures actually. So it's Romans 12 verse 2, and it says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And then the other scripture is Galatians 1 verse 10, which says, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. And this also reminds me of an example my dad would always say. So before my dad met my mom, he was praying and he asked the Lord, how do I find the right woman? And God said to him, become the right man. And then obviously he's like, well, what's wrong with me? And then obviously he was like, okay, I need to become the right man. So instead of us complaining about everyone being a certain way or culture being a certain way, whatever it is, it's like we can really be the example, and we can be transformed ourselves in any situation, no matter what it looks like, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Because as we know, like, the more that I've lived and the more that time has gone on, I've seen that usually the more that we're on the same page as what the world is going along with or what the world is doing, that's generally not what God is saying and what God is doing. Usually God is not in it. It's like there's a standard that we complain about, and the standard that has been set by the world and by culture is godless. It's a godless culture. It's a godless standard. And so of course it's gonna breed unfaithfulness. It's gonna breed just a culture of sleeping around and only wanting one thing and drinking and all these things. It's going to breed that. And so my encouragement, again, it actually doesn't matter whether it's that or whether it's something else, but my encouragement to people listening today is, instead of feeling like, well, for me to be able to reach these people, I need to act like them, or I need to sin in the same ways as they are, or I need to conform to what they're doing, or even like I just can't really fully share my faith because then I'm not going to be relatable. And something that my husband always says is, don't be afraid to be the odd one out. Don't be afraid to be like, when we were flying back from Toronto to Vancouver, he started sharing the gospel with the guy sitting next to us, and he was young, like, I don't know, like around 20. And my husband was saying to him, don't be afraid to be the odd one out. Don't be afraid to be that person who carries around his Bible and who doesn't go out and party and who's not involved in the like cool crowd of drinking and doing all these things. Don't be afraid to be set apart. And that's what God has called us to be, which I'm going to read a scripture about that too right now. And that's in 1 Peter 2 verse 9. It says, but you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. So we really were called to be set apart, no matter how unpopular that looks or how much it goes against culture. I know personally for me, when I look back at high school or being in my early 20s, even though I wasn't walking in faith, I do wish that I had the courage to do what I knew in my spirit was right, instead of what other people were saying was the cool thing to do or the popular thing to do at that time. Because ultimately, when you look back, you realize that none of those opinions mattered, and the only opinion that ever mattered was God's opinion of us, and that's really who we're going to be facing at the end of our lives. And even though it might feel good to, really gain approval from the world and to go along with what everyone is doing, but if it's not God's standard, then it's just going to be destructive in the end. It says also in the end days that right will become wrong and wrong will become right, and we're starting to see that now more than ever. So yeah, I'm the type of person who I am a people pleaser, I will say. I have worked on it a lot, but I would think of if I only just agreed with that person's opinion, if I only just lived the way that that person wanted me to live, and just paint everything as everything's good, everything's acceptable, everything's passable, then this person or this people group would be more pleased with me and be more accepting of me. Might be the faster or the quicker way to climb the ladder of success. But when you're doing it God's way, then, it's always a better way, and he really honors that, and he can give us success in that as well. So I just wanted to encourage whoever's listening today that you're here so that you can shine the light of Christ to other people, and don't be afraid to do that. And obviously not in a way that's like a rebellious spirit or coming from animosity or anything like that. Always coming from love and from grace. But again, it's like speaking truth in love. That's always extremely important. So I hope that that can inspire someone today. And I just want to thank you guys so much for liking these videos and for subscribing to my channel and for commenting below. That helps me out so much. And then thank you guys so much to my Patreons and to my clients and to my supporters. I really appreciate it. And I get your guys' emails and messages, and it really makes my day. So thank you so much. And the last thing that I wanted to say, I'm going to put all the links below, but I have my certification program where I'm equipping and certifying Christian life coaches. And that's going to start in April, but you can sign up anytime, like starting now. And I have an early bird discount, and that's going to be expiring February 1st. So that's in a few days that the early bird discount expires. So I'm going to put all of that below, and if you guys have any topic requests that you'd like me to cover, then please send it to me. And I think that's it for today, so I will see you guys next week. Bye.